Hello everyone, I'm Joshua. I'm a Kenyan doctor practicing in the UK, and in today's video, I'm going to give you the steps that I took as an international medical graduate, or IMG in short, to come and practice here as a doctor. So I'll talk about the things listed there. Basically, the IELTS academic exam, Plab 1, Plab 2, Plab 2 visa, and GMC registration. Um, that is just a quote to start off that life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Coming to a different country is a big decision. It involves thinking about leaving the places that you're used to, your comfortable places, your friends, relatives, and everyone, and moving to a different place. Uh, like myself, I didn't have any relatives in the UK, no real friendships or relationships here, so it's pretty much starting life anew in a very different country, thousands of miles away from home. And it's a big thing, it's a big deal when you decide to make this decision. So, usually, there are a lot of things you're not sure of when you decide to make the move. And there are a lot of things, even if you thought you knew, the experience will probably be different from what you expected. And so I'm just going to give you my story, my experience really, and how I prepared for all these exams that you have to do before you get your registration in the General Medical Council in the UK, the GMC registration, so that you can practice as a doctor. So, the first in a series of many exams that you will do is the IELTS exam. IELTS is, I can't remember exactly in full, I think it's International English Language Test something, if I'm not wrong. But it's basically a competency test to test how good you are in English as a language. So, there are different kinds of IELTS tests, but the one that you need to do to get your registration for GMC is the academic tests, the IELTS academic. Usually, the exam is delivered in two ways. It could be a paper based or a computer based exam, and the choice is entirely yours. The difference between the two is basically that for the paper based test, you will write, and for the computer based test, you will type on the keyboard. Um, The other difference is that for the computer based test, the results typically are delivered faster than the paper based tests. In Kenya, where I did my exams, it's delivered by either one of two organizations, that's the British Council or IDP. So, usually you will go to their websites and book these exams, and those are the websites. I'll post all these links down below the video description. So you go to that website, click the country you are from, and then go through the process as you will be guided. Usually it's self-explanatory. So preparing for this exam, the first thing I will mention is that it is an exam like any other, so you need to prepare for it. There are people who actually fail in this exam. They fail to meet the requisite scores, and so you need to prepare for it. But having said that, if you're very good and confident with English, it is not an exam that needs a lot of time to prepare for. For somebody who is very confident with their spoken English, their written English, listening and everything. In fact, you probably just need some self-guided study if you're that confident, and in 2 weeks time or thereabout, you should be able to sit for it and pass. However, many people are not that competent and confident with English, and so they need more time, and there's nothing wrong with that. You need more time. You know where you lie basically with your competency of the language. So give yourself enough time to prepare for this exam so that you can get pass. And if you think you will need tutors, I'm very sure that in many parts of the world, wherever you are listening from, there are probably some tutors who are available locally. If they're not available locally, you could get some online and pay online. Whatever works for you, whatever you think will help you to pass, make sure you use that resource and give yourself enough time to prepare for the exam and pass. So the tests usually has 4 parts. There's a speaking part, listening, writing, and reading. And the pass mark for Plab, or rather for GMC registration, is a band 7.5. So the test is scored from band 1 to 9, if I'm not wrong, yeah. And you need to get a minimum of 7.5 overall as an overall score, and a minimum of band 7 in each of these modules. So either 7 in speaking, 7 in listening, 7 in writing, 7 in reading as a minimum, and your overall score as a minimum should be 7.5. And the other thing I will say is that oh gosh, it's escaped my mind, but I will get back to it. So so in terms of preparing, you will get, when you book the tests, you will get some free videos that will enable you also to know what the test is like, how, and some free tests, mock tests that you can do. Aside from that, you can, as I had mentioned earlier, you can pay for coaches if you need to. You can pay tutors, and people will help you to pass. So once you have gotten the requisite score for your IELTS exam, the English exam, you're now ready to sit for Plab 1. In Plab 1, Plab 1 is basically a multiple choice question exam that you do. You'll do it as the first of the exams when you're preparing for the GMC registration. So as an IMG, there are 2 parts of Plab. There's Plab 1 and Plab 2. Now at this point, I will mention that there are plans to switch to UK MLA, what they're calling the United Kingdom Medical Licensing Assessment, and that will be basically, it will mean that we will no longer be doing Plabs as international medical graduates, and the exams will be sitting for our UK MLAs. From what we know, and up to this point, the main difference, basically, it will still be a 2-part test. There will be a theory test, an MCQ, basically a multiple choice question, and then there'll be a OSCE, the clinical part. So more or less the same, as we have Plab 1 as the theory part and the Plab 2 as the clinical part of the exam. The other second difference is that, unlike now where Plab is only done by international medical graduates who want to practice in the UK, the UK MLA exams will be done by every doctor, whether you studied in UK or you studied abroad, before they get registered as medical in the GMC, basically. So even medical graduates in the UK will sit for the UK MLA before they get GMC registration. So it will be a common pathway for all junior doctors who are getting into the GMC registration route. I'll probably do a later video just on UK MLA, but for today I'll stick with Plab. So Plab is done in different venues. On the website you'll find the venue, and you can get to whichever venue you think is more convenient to you, depending on which part of the world you are from, and maybe your budget and all those other things. So all these venues will basically offer the same kind of exam. It's, in my experience, I think it was one of the easiest medical exams I sat for, compared to the kinds I used to sit for back in my university. I don't know about other people's experiences, but That was my experience. And having said that, I wouldn't say it is an easy exam, but again, it is not an impossible exam. It is not a very difficult exam if you've prepared well for it. There are people who pay for online courses, tutors, and all that kind of thing. I will say for Plab 1, that perhaps is not really necessary for most people, but if you think it's something you want to do, by all means, you can go ahead and do it. All you need, actually, from my experience, was that you just needed access to revision materials and then set aside enough time to practice. And, of course, enough discipline to study. If you studied probably for 3 hours, 2.5 hours every day, and for a month or two, you should be able, in my opinion, be able to pass Plab 1. In terms of revision materials, the one that I found useful in my experience was called 1700 questions. Nowadays there's an app. People have developed an app from Android, you can just download it and get it, but you can still download it online, I think, for free. And go through these question banks. Mostly you will find that while they will not repeat these questions in Plab 1, the themes will be repeated. So if you've practiced these questions, you'd probably have a good grip of the Plab 1 kind of questions that you are going to meet. And for me, it really worked. It really worked well. Aside from that, there are many other question banks. There's one called Plab Doable and Plabable, I think. There were so many others, but personally, I used the 1700 questions and it was good enough. Aside from that, the other resources I found very useful was in a Facebook page called Plab, and in the file section, people had put quite a lot of material. Now, the one thing I will mention is that if you're going to go to this Facebook page and get all this material, there's a temptation to try to download everything, and that is the one thing you should not do. In my opinion, just get very focused. Like for me, I would advise, from my experience, what I did was the 1700 questions. And then from this section of Facebook, I only downloaded mock exams, and I did as many mock exams as possible with the time that I had. Aside from this resource, that page is a very resourceful community for people who are preparing for Plab, and people usually post questions and everything and discussions that I find very useful. Especially you feel that it's a good community to belong to if you're in this journey, in my opinion. So just for the sake of being in that community, I would really advise you, if you're on Facebook, to also join that page. I think I've said this, that the word of caution basically is don't get tempted to try and read everything. There's just too much material. So get focused, get one source of good question banks, study all those questions, and get to understand the science behind your questions, and then do as many mocks as time will allow you, and you will pass. A very good website for preparing for Plab, which I also found useful in my experience, was roadtouk.com. I will put the link down below. Then you can also go to the GMC website and read about Plab 1 from the GMC website. Sorry. So once you've done your Plab, your results will be out in 6 weeks. After 6 weeks now, hopefully you have passed and you are ready to start preparing for your Plab 2, the clinical exam. So the clinical exam is usually an OSCE kind of exam. It is done, I think, almost every, not exactly, but almost every 2 weeks, and it's done only in the UK. Unlike Plab 1, where there are many international venues, for Plab 2 it's only in the UK. Again, unlike Plab 1, I think it's done was it 4 times in a year, if I'm not wrong? I just can't remember exactly, but it's yeah, roughly about 4 times every year. Plab 2 is done more frequently, but only in the UK. In and the main preparations for Plab 2 will involve preparing for your UK visa, attending revision academies, and then booking and traveling to do your Plab 2. So I will come back to the Plab 2 visa later, but for the academies are usually just people like, let's say, myself or any other person who is interested in teaching people and preparing for Plab 2 have come up with their private tuition, and people will pay them, of course, for the time they are spending to teach you, and then they will help you to prepare for Plab 2. So that is the whole thing about the academies. They are not formal. What will I say? They're not like they're not officially sanctioned by GMC, if I would put it that way. They're not like there's no academy that is a branch of the GMC. Let me say it that way. It's just people who want to help other doctors through their journey in preparing for Plab 2. So that is the whole idea of what you hear people talk about academies. So it's just individuals, private individuals, trying to help you to pass. Yeah. So there are different ways in which they deliver their content. They could deliver it in physical classrooms or online. The choice really depends on whether you want, which one you're comfortable with, and whether you have the money and the time to attend a physical class or an online class. Personally, I attended an online one and I did pass, so I will say if you should not be afraid of just doing it online. Some people kind of feel like if you don't do it physically, you're disadvantaged. I don't believe there's any disadvantage in just doing it online. Nevertheless, if I had the opportunity to do it physically, I think I would have gone for the physical classrooms for myself. The reason I didn't choose physical was because I was working full time at that time and I didn't have enough leave days to come and travel to the UK and attend an academy. And secondly, of course, the physical one was way more expensive than the online one. So I didn't have as much money to do the physical one as compared to doing the online one. There's always been debates about, is there one academy that's better than another? I would say there's really no best academy. It's all these things. All these academies will basically give you the same kind of content, in my opinion. Well, I have not really attended them, but I think from the reviews I see, all of them get mixed reviews. There are those, but majority of the reviews generally are positive reviews from many of these academies. So whichever academy you think, for whatever reason you want to attend, it's up to you. It's your individual choice. Whether you want to do it online or physically, it's also up to you. The academy I attended was called Patient-Centered Approach. It's probably not one of the most common ones that you will see people talk about, but they had very good content, and actually I think all the stations I met in the exam, apart from one, I was prepared for through this academy. So I will also put a link to their Facebook page down below. So preparing for Plab 2 usually takes longer than preparing for Plab 1. So you need very good amount of time to prepare for this. The OSCE has I can't remember the exact number of stations, sorry, but each station is marked out of 12. So there are 3 domains. You will be marked for your interpersonal skills. You will be marked for your data gathering, basically, which includes your history taking and physical examinations, and then you'll be marked for your management. The easiest marks usually to get are for interpersonal skills, and you can easily score the 4 marks out of that, or worst case scenario, get the 3. And then the rest are not difficult to get if you have prepared well also. So it's not uncommon for people to pass all the stations in their Plab 2, or maybe just fail one or two out of all the stations. It is, again, not really an examination of knowledge, but an examination of your safety as a doctor, of your skills. Of course, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't have knowledge. Your knowledge is tested in Plab 1. So it is very okay in Plab 2, for example, in a Plab 2 scenario, to say, to tell the patient, I don't know this diagnosis, but this is what I will do. I will probably talk to my seniors. I will refer you to X, Y, and Z. It is okay in a Plab 2 scenario as a safe doctor that it happens even in real life. It is very much possible to tell your patients, I really can't figure out what is wrong with you at this point. But as a safe doctor, you always know that there's an option of sending you to this kind of specialist or this kind of senior person or I can discuss with another colleague and then come back to you and tell you that. So usually Plab 2 does not really want you to show off your knowledge. It's just to show off that you are a good clinician and a safe doctor. So that is the whole point of Plab 2. Again, everything about Plab 2 you can get from the JMC website. And now, to Plab 2 visa. The visa is, you will usually need to apply for it. There's you from the UK website, and then all the requirements are there. So UK, I think, in comparison to stories I've heard of people who've tried to apply for visas to the US, UK is a bit more friendly in terms of their visa policy. And if you submit all your documents as you're required and all of them are legitimate, your chances of getting a visa are very high. Having said that, people still get visa rejections, and so it is very important that you do your homework well. Make sure all your paperwork is correct and you're not trying to fake anything. And if you think something needs to be explained, make sure you explain it in your submission, your documents that you submit, so that basically it's just like a checklist. If you have everything in the checklist and everything is right and legitimate and there's nothing that you're trying to fake or hide, you should be comfortable enough that you'll get the visa. Some people do get rejections, and if you get a rejection, you can usually reapply and maybe try to get to understand. Also, sometimes they could even give you a reason as to why they rejected it, and they'll tell you probably this is the reason why we did not think we should be giving you a visa. And now when you reapply, you make sure that you have taken care of that reason. But I would say, as a general rule, if you have all your documents set and everything is correct and legitimate and there's nothing fake and there's nothing you're trying to cook, you should be comfortable that you will get your visa for Plab 2. And now for GMC registration, after you have passed your Plab 2, hopefully you have passed at this point, GMC registration is technically, like, I will call it Plab 3, the third phase of all these steps. So 2 weeks after your Plab 2, you get your results, and then now you will need, one is the EPIC verification of your medical degree. I will talk about that in a minute. Then a certificate of good conduct from your medical board, and then a certificate of good conduct from your police department, whichever part of the world you come from. So the medical, while applying for GMC registration, you will apply in their portal, and you should make sure everything adds up, including the dates and there's no discrepancy again. Just like I said for the Plab 2 visa, for the GMC registration, GMC will take enough time to ensure that everything adds up. Even if there's a small discrepancy somewhere in your dates, then probably will delay your application. So make sure everything is as true as it can be. Make sure that everything is as there are no question marks basically. Don't try to fake anything, because that may also delay your GMC application. They will want to verify the details of your internship. If it's been a long time afterwards, they'll also want to verify your employment. Basically, everything you've done since the day you left medical school. Sorry, about the EPIC verification, which I had mentioned that I will discuss. EPIC is verification based. You will open an account in the website, the and ECFMG website. I'll put the link on that. So these people, basically what they do is they will verify that your degree, your primary medical qualification, is from a real university, and the degree is real and it came from that university. So when you open that account, there's usually some fee you will pay to open the account. Then there's some fee you will pay for the degree or the document you want them to verify, and they will communicate to your university, and your university will communicate to them to confirm that yes, it's true, this kind of student was our student and they got that degree. And then once your university has confirmed that, these people now can also confirm it to GMC that we have done our background checks and that degree, that qualification is real. So finally, you have been registered, you have gone through all this process, you've done English exams, you've done your Plab 1, your Plab 2, you've done your GMC registration, and now you are set for the life after GMC registration. So the main thing now is looking for jobs. The easiest way, or the most common way that people apply for jobs, is through the NHS jobs website, and you will need to apply for yourself. So jobs in the UK are very available for doctors, but depending on your length of experience and how good your CV is, some people do find it a bit difficult to get their first jobs, especially if you're a very fresh doctor, you're just straight from medical school. Nevertheless, that does not mean that you will not get your first job. You will get it, but after applying, you should be able to get a job. Some people are lucky to get their jobs within weeks. A good lot of people will take quite a number of months before they get their first job. So when you apply, after you've applied, you will be called for interviews if you're lucky and shortlisted. If you're not shortlisted, you may get a regret letter. I did get a whole lot of regret letters. I did actually apply for a job as soon as I finished. I started applying for jobs as soon as I finished Plab 2. I remember I got one interview, but they didn't take me for that job because I hadn't finished my GMC registration process. So that was the very first interview I ever got. And after the interview, I received an email with a regret telling me they couldn't take me because my GMC registration was still pending. Nevertheless, I did get another one later on. So it also took me a long time. So I know this is a period that requires some bit of patience for people who are still looking for jobs. Myself, it took me probably about 6 months from the time I finally got my GMC registration to the time I got my first jobs. And I know a good number of people who take roughly around the same time. Others take longer, others take a shorter time. Yeah, so it's about patience. Thank you for listening to me up to this point. I know there's quite a whole lot of things I could have discussed, but this was just a run through talk. And if you have any questions, you can drop them for me in that mail, or you can put them on the comment section. I'll If there are any videos you would like me to do in future, also just drop them down in the comment section.